What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. As you all know, I have worked with hundreds of women on their journey of healing their metabolism after years of undereating, overexercising, and over these years, both in my own journey as well as working with hundreds of clients, I started to notice very clear and common patterns. Not just random symptoms pop up here and there like bloating, irregular period, inflammation, weight loss resistance, acne, but I started seeing these symptoms pop up in patterns. And almost every woman that I work with falls into one of three different metabolism patterns or problems. And once you understand which one of these you're in, everything starts to make sense. You finally can understand what the root cause is as to why your body is not responding in the way that it used to or that you want it to. It's not a reflection of all the effort that you're currently putting in. And more importantly, you know what strategy to take to start to see results again. So I decided to create a metabolism quiz that you can take to identify which one of these patterns or problems you're experiencing. I'm going to put the link to that down in the show notes below. And also, this podcast episode today is breaking down each of these patterns and problems so that by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly which one sounds like you. More importantly, why your current approach isn't working and what to start doing instead. So this episode isn't for the woman who has put her health on the back burner and gained 30 to 40 pounds. This is for the woman who is already disciplined, successful, consistent, but your body still isn't responding in the way that it used to. It's not because you were lazy, because you fell off, because you let yourself go. Most of the women that I work with are high performers who are driven, structured, motivated, and used to getting results when you put your mind to something. And that's exactly why this becomes so frustrating, because the strategy that helped you to build your body, to have success, to even build your career, eventually stops working physiologically, and no one tells you what to do next. So instead, you've just got really good at pushing through these symptoms and signals that your body is giving you. You've gotten really good at normalizing stress, at overriding fatigue, at pushing through muscle aches and pains to the point where now it's become a liability to your health. Now this conversation is going far beyond just your physique and aesthetic desires, but it's about how efficient your metabolism is, your digestion, your hormones, your energy levels, your quality of life, your mental health. So when your body stops responding, fat loss stalls, energy crashes, your hormones feel off, you don't feel like yourself anymore. I get that instinct to want to do more because that's what's always worked before. To try harder, to eat less, to train more, to be more consistent. But you'll learn the hard way that you can't out-discipline a body that's stuck in survival mode. And survival mode looks very different for different people. And that's where I started catching these patterns with both myself and with my clients. There are three that have started to show up time and time and time again. And I don't want you to use this as a diagnosis or as this creating this idea in your head or belief that you are broken in any way. But I want you to use this as an aha moment of, oh, this explains why what you've been doing isn't working and what you need to start doing instead, so that you can truly understand these patterns that your body is presenting to you as adaptations that your body has been going through, and know what to shift and change in your lifestyle and your habits to start working with your body instead of against it. So I'm excited to dive into today's episode because there are, like I said, three different ways that I've seen the body respond when a high performing woman has been under the same kind of pressure, dieting, stress for too long. And type 1 is the stressed or overstimulated metabolism. And this is the first metabolism pattern or problem that I ever lived in personally in my own journey. And honestly, it's the most normalized for most high achieving women. If you've ever felt exhausted all day, but suddenly wide awake at night, if taking rest days makes you feel behind, guilty, or anxious, slowing down makes you feel restless or irritable instead of truly relaxed, if caffeine, pre-workout, or willpower is how you get yourself moving, if you constantly tell yourself, I'll rest later, I just need to get through today or get through this busy season, then this type 1 might be you. From the outside, chances are everything looks healthy. This is where I was. I was waking up early. I was doing fasted cardio. I was eating healthy. I was training hard. I was working nonstop. And I remember thinking, is this what success really feels like? Because behind the scenes, my sleep was terrible. My anxiety was high. My digestion was off. My cycle was missing. And eventually, fat loss completely stalled, even though I was doing everything right, even though I was the healthy one. And what I didn't understand yet was the role of my nervous system in my metabolism, hormones, and body composition. I knew about nutrition and exercise. Frankly, I knew about metabolism and reverse dieting and those more advanced approaches towards body transformation. But what I was missing was the power of my nervous system. And my nervous system, as a high performer, was constantly stuck in fight or flight. So my body wasn't resisting fat loss, it was just prioritizing survival. And in a chronically stressed state, your body is not asking, oh, how do we lose body fat? It's asking, how do we conserve energy stored as body fat, stay alert, and protect ourselves from these perceived threats, whether it's physical threats, mental threats, emotionally, or even something in your environment. And when that is the dominant signal for long enough, adaptations kick in. Things start to slow down. Things fall out of balance internally. And this is where, honestly, I see a lot of surface level labs that you get from traditional doctors miss the bigger picture. Because there's common patterns that I see where cortisol is elevated, flat, or dysregulated across the day that's not caught in one blood panel in the morning. Or blood sugar instability. Blood sugar problems are a major root cause of a lot of other hormonal issues, or specifically fat storage and inflammation in the abdominal section, which a lot of my clients struggle with. And this is often overlooked because you are not someone who's largely overweight or consuming tons of sugar. But one of the biggest blood sugar dysregulators is being in a cycle of undereating, overeating. Cortisol is one of the major hormones that increases your blood sugar and can lead to this insulin resistant problem where a lot of lean individuals are now getting diagnosed with PCOS. The root cause is blood sugar instability. Also, one of the most common hormone imbalance that I see inside of my program is thyroid, hypothyroid. So thyroid markers that are quote unquote normal, but they're actually suppressed when we look under the hood and we look even deeper. Or when we compare them not to the average normal range, but when we compare them to the healthy optimal range for body recomposition. We also see low progesterone due to chronic stress signaling, lots of women struggling with irregular periods or missing periods, and just signs of inflammation or poor recovery from overexercising and a lot of activity. And again, none of these things scream disease, and that's why they're not caught by traditional medicine. But together, this tells us a very clear story. Together, these symptoms, these patterns tell us that the body has been living in survival mode for too long. And this is where constantly pushing yourself backfires and discipline becomes a liability. Because when your nervous system is already overstimulated, adding more training, adding more dieting, more restriction adds more stress and threat to you physically. So the very traits of exercise and nutrition and health that are supposed to make you healthy, make you successful, actually are working against you. This is where a lot of women get stuck. So what actually fixes this phase, the missing skill here, for me personally, was learning how to regulate my nervous system. This was a massive mindset shift for me. Regulating your nervous system is a skill that you have to learn. And I was scared that learning how to downshift my nervous system by resting more, slowing down my pace, creating more safety in my body, that it would make me less driven, less successful, less productive. But the opposite actually happened. The more regulated that I became, the more that I stopped waking up exhausted and anxious, the more that I could work full days without having to rely on caffeine. I had more mental energy, mental clarity. I could make decisions faster without overthinking. I could have better workouts, train with more intensity, recover faster. So I could train harder and continue to achieve body recomposition. I was able to stay more consistent with my nutrition and my workouts without forcing it. And as a bonus, my symptoms started to disappear. My hormones improved, my energy stabilized, my body became responsive again. It started responding exactly the way that it was designed to when a body feels safe and functions optimally. So how I really look at this is regulation is what allows high performance to be sustainable. It allows you to continue pushing yourself at the level and capacity that you currently are, but in a way that's healthy. So here's what really matters. Nervous system regulation, it's not the solution for everyone, but it's a very, very important piece of the puzzle. And this leads me into type number 2, because while some women are stuck in survival mode from too much stress, others are stuck because the body has adapted to too little fuel. And that's type 2. Type 2 is the suppressed or underfueled metabolism. And this phase, again, incredibly common in high achieving women. And it's also one of the hardest to recognize because, again, on the surface, it looks like discipline. If you're eating very little, you're training hard, you're staying consistent, and still not seeing results, this could be your pattern. This is the phase that was hardest for me mentally and what I see for a lot of my clients too. There was a point where I truly believed that eating more would ruin everything that I worked for in my physique. Truthfully, I'd built my entire identity around being the healthy one, being the dieter, being the one who had control and discipline to stay lean. So when my progress stalled, my assumption was, oh, well, I must not be doing enough. I have to eat less calories. I have to train harder. I have to be more disciplined. But nothing was changing. In this phase, fat loss isn't stalling because you're doing something wrong. It's stalling because your body has adapted to prolonged underfueling and chronic dieting. So fat loss plateaus, despite eating low calories, are really common for the type 2 women. Even like feeling cold more than usual, feeling low or flat in your energy throughout the day, brain fog, increased food obsession or food noise, even binging and overeating episodes start to become common. And even though they're pretty out of character for you, irregular or missing periods, poor sleep, workouts that feel a lot harder, but don't produce the results that you want. This is all because your body is conserving energy because it doesn't trust that fuel is consistent and available from chronically undereating. And again, also a common place where labs can technically be normal, but functionally they're suppressed. Low thyroid markers, especially T3, which usually isn't tested in traditional medicine. Resting metabolic rate is lower than expected for your body size. Low leptin, this is a big one, signaling perceived energy scarcity. Cortisol is elevated or it's flattened due to chronic stress and underfueling. And most commonly, I see sex hormones suppressed across the board. So things like low estrogen and low progesterone. And this is where, again, high performers get trapped because when results stop, again, the instinct is cut calories further, add more cardio, be more controlling with your nutrition, more disciplined. But every single time that you do that, you're continuing to reinforce the signal to your body that fuel is scarce. And so the body responds by conserving fuel even more, holding on to that stubborn body fat. And the solution here is restoring trust internally. That means increasing your calories strategically with a reverse diet, not doing this randomly or too quickly, but strategically with a reverse diet, spending real time eating at your maintenance calories so that you're not constantly in a deficit, reducing unnecessary volume of your training that's adding additional stress onto the body, and really prioritizing recovery and sleep. Going back to type 1, adding in some of these like nervous system regulation habits and activities. Once the body trusts that fuel is available, your output comes back online, and that output is your metabolic capacity. The missing skill here is learning how to reverse diet properly, to be patient enough to eat at your maintenance more than you're eating in a deficit. And once you learn how to do that, for a lot of women, that shift alone is enough. That shift alone is enough to create massive results in your body composition, in your symptoms, in your energy levels. Once the body feels consistently fueled again, things start to respond again. Energy comes back, training improves, and fat loss becomes predictable and possible. On the other hand, there are some women that even after food and training are dialed in, something still doesn't feel right. And that's where we start looking at type 3, a third pattern. This is the sensitive or dysregulated metabolism. This phase is what ultimately pushed me personally into the functional health space. If your body feels unpredictable, like 1 week you feel fine, but the next week you're bloated, you're inflamed, you're exhausted for no clear reason. If foods that used to feel healthy, like salads, protein, bars, veggies, smoothies, they now leave you feeling bloated, foggy, or uncomfortable, if your labs keep coming back normal, but you're still dealing with fatigue, digestive issues, cycle irregularities, or stubborn symptoms that don't match your effort on paper, this might be you. There was a point where it felt like my body was just like reacting to everything. I was breaking out, I was bloated, I was inflamed, I was burnt out. Foods I'd eaten for years just started triggering me. Stress hit way harder than it used to, not just emotionally, but physically. Like I could feel the heaviness in my body, the tension in like my neck and my joints, and everything was just hurting and feeling heavy. My cycle was MIA, even though I was at a healthy weight, and my recovery just slowed down. My sleep was inconsistent. And that was really the most confusing part of this journey for me, because I kept being told that everything looked fine. My blood work looked normal. Nothing was technically wrong. So I was left wondering if I was just overreacting, if it was just in my head, or if something was actually missing. And that disconnect between what my labs were saying in the traditional medicine world versus how I actually felt. I see this over and over and over again, is where women get stuck. And here's what I want to be really clear about. My body wasn't necessarily sensitive, even though this type 3 is called sensitive. My body was just overloaded. In this phase, the issue isn't your effort, your discipline, or even calories. The issue is internal communication between all the different systems of your body: your digestion, your detoxification, your hormones, your nervous system, your metabolism. Your systems aren't talking to each other efficiently anymore. So some common symptoms that I see here is bloating, gas, food reactions that feel random, inflammation or water retention that comes and goes, feeling worse when you go on a different supplement or try a new protocol, a heightened stress response, like small stressors feel like big problems or weigh heavy on you, poor recovery from your workouts that you used to be able to tolerate, irregular missing periods despite doing everything right, and energy that is just unpredictable and fluctuates day to day instead of being high and stable. The reason that your body feels unpredictable is because it is overwhelmed. It is overloaded. And again, just emphasizing, this is where surface level labs usually miss the full story. Normal blood work, but values that cluster at the edges of those normal ranges. This tells me that they are suboptimal. There's also some signs of gut dysfunction, which are really hard to detect just simply by blood work. Things like inflammation, dysbiosis, impaired digestion. So nutrient deficiencies start to pop up when that's the case. Cortisol patterns that are flatlined. Again, when you're not testing cortisol throughout the day, you're not getting a full picture of what your cortisol pattern actually looks like, which is usually the root cause of a lot of these other downstream health dysfunctions. Estrogen clearance issues or low progesterone output, thyroid markers that are technically in range but not optimal, elevated inflammatory markers or subtle immune activation. Individually, none of these issues scream disease, but together they're a very clear story. Just like type 1, just like type 2, your body is under chronic internal stress. And you're digging yourself accidentally into a deeper hole. Because when something doesn't work, you're adding on more supplements, more diet rules, more protocols, more biohacks, but in a sensitive, dysregulated system, more input onto your body equals more noise, more dysregulation. And the body stops responding clearly because it is overwhelmed. It is overloaded, not because it needs more. So the missing skill here in a type 3 is awareness and data-driven decision-making. This phase requires fewer interventions applied more intentionally. You need less of these random hacks and habits, and you need a clear strategy that is designed personally for your body and your lifestyle. You also need to look deeper at the root cause, looking at gut health, looking at hormones, looking at stress together as one, not separately. They are all systems that are intercommunicated with one another. We need to look at them together and connect the dots of the bigger picture. We need to create safety before chasing outcomes. We need to remove unnecessary inputs before adding new ones. And again, let data guide the decisions instead of just relying on symptoms alone. Because again, your body is in a state where it's very unpredictable. Once I personally stopped guessing and I started looking at the right data by going and getting functional lab testing done, I started looking at my gut function, my hormone patterns, not just levels, my stress output, my metabolism, everything started to click. And my body started to become predictable again, which is the goal. So here's what all of these three patterns have in common. High performers keep applying the same skill, pushing, discipline, no matter what the problem is. But your physiology does not respond to more pushing, more discipline, or more effort. It responds to having the right approach and strategy based off of what's currently keeping you stuck. So the skill that sets high performers apart is knowing which lever to pull at the right time, is knowing what thing to focus on at the right time, knowing what phase to prioritize before the next. Sometimes that's more nervous system regulation. Sometimes that's a reverse diet and fueling more optimally. Sometimes that's doing the deeper root cause work and functional lab testing. You don't need a new crazy plan. You don't need to try harder. You need clarity. You need data. You need a strategy. That's less forcing your body and more understanding it and working with it. So I hope that this episode was eye-opening. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you can see yourself in one of these different types. If you're currently struggling, you can use the quiz down in the show notes below to figure out the answer for you and start to implement the missing skill based off of where you're currently feeling stuck, what your root cause is, and slowly start to heal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode.